Hi guys, and welcome back to the kingdom. I hope you guys have been having positive and productive starts to your year and the week. So today I really wanted to talk about something that I think is really important, and that's about having realistic writing expectations. Now, we've all heard the myths and the legends of those people who had a book idea on Monday and by Sunday they had a fully fledged draft. Now, that does occasionally happen, but I promise you they are the exception. The majority have a much more difficult time with writing. Now, I'm going to talk about realistic expectations for getting published and agents and all of that in a later video. I really want to focus on the actual writing of your novel in this video. So let's do this. So let's jump straight into things. My first really big tip to give yourself realistic expectations is do not quit your day job. Once your book is a success and you're rivaling J.K. Rowling and all the money is pouring in, you can do what you like. But until that point, you need to put food in your belly, keep a roof over your head, and be able to afford to live whilst writing your book. Now, the starving artist routine might sound romantic or interesting, but trust me, to everyone else, including people in the industry and your friends and your family, it's just plain annoying, and to be completely honest with you, it is really overdone. In particular, people are going to get really annoyed with you if you quit your day job, whine about your living conditions, take 2 years to finish your first draft, and then even in the end, don't even get it published. People are just going to get really annoyed with you, particularly people in the industry. There are lots of people who've got published books, who've got tens of published books, but are still not making enough to have a full-time living and have a part-time job on the side. I know people who can plot, write their first draft and edit a novel within 3 months. So if you take a really long time and whine and complain about it the whole time you're doing it, you're just going to turn everyone in the community off you, and that's something you really don't want to do when you're looking for help and advice when you're starting your career. But let's say that you're not whining, you're not starving, you're not a Hemingway person, but you are focusing on it all day, all the time. Honestly, in my personal opinion, I find that's really not healthy or conducive to creativity and productivity. It's like taking a study break when you're revising. Taking that chance to refresh your mind will give you a flood of creative energy, a flood of creative ideas, and generally will help you keep up your productivity levels to their absolute peak. Even if it's a part-time job, maybe it doesn't even have to be making you money, maybe it's doing something for charity, doing something with your kids, but having that other part of your life, I find will really help me when I'm writing, and I hope that it'll help you too. The second thing I wanted to tell you guys about is that when you tell your friends and your family you're writing a book, they're going to get super nosy. And they mean it in a good way. Now, I didn't get this from my family as much, thankfully, but from my friends, big time. They wanted to read first drafts and half-finished edits and all of these different things. They kept asking me questions like, what is it about? What are the characters like? Am I in it? Things like that. And they are well-meaning questions and interesting questions, and they're trying to show that they're interested in what I'm doing. But actually, you've got to be prepared for not only the well-meaning stuff, but the hostility as well. Now, I've already talked to you guys about the difference between hate and constructive criticism, and I think it's really important for authors to identify that really early on. But generally, friends that are really interested and really care about you and what you're trying to achieve are going to ask you lots of questions because it's something that they haven't heard about before or maybe don't know a lot about, and it's their way of showing that they care. So I want to tell you guys about my experience when I started writing a book, or telling people that I was writing a book. Now, most of the people in my life were really wonderful. They wanted to be really supportive, even if they didn't know much about writing or weren't interested in books and writing. They wanted to support my dreams and ambitions. But there were a few snide comments and a few nasty comments that, I tried to brush off as them having a rough day or not feeling quite themselves. But it was really strange where these comments came from, and when I got published, they got nastier and more snide. And I wasn't sure why that was. It came from really odd places, but I asked around. And a lot of the other authors that I've talked to online, that I know in person, that are my friends, old authors, new authors, have all experienced at some point a strange point of hostility. And we don't know why that is, but it is something that I have noticed is common amongst authors once they start telling people that they're a writer, or they start saying, oh look, in the shop, that's my book. We don't know why people do it, but for some reason, telling people that you've written a book or that you're writing a book can be a trigger. Now, 99% of people won't be like this, and I hope that you never have to experience it. But it is something that I would recommend that you be aware of when you start telling people that, yeah, you're writing a book. Another realistic writing expectation that I want to give you guys is something that frustrates a lot of people in the industry, is that telling people, oh yeah, I'm a writer, I'm an author, my manuscript will be ready soon, but they haven't actually sat down to write anything in a really long time. Now of course there are always exceptions to this. So for example, when I was in my exam season, I felt really guilty whenever I sat down to write anything. I shouldn't have, because it would have helped my mental health immensely, but I always did because I felt like if I've got an hour to write, I should have an hour of study instead. And as such, most of the time I didn't touch my manuscript for about a month, but the moment the exam season was over, I made up for that more than double by spending every day writing. There are genuinely things that are going to be more important than writing. Your life is going to be more important than writing. However, if you are serious about getting your manuscript finished, then you do have to set aside time, carve aside that time and protect it to make sure that it actually gets done. If you have some writing time set aside, but then your mate phone up and asks, do you want to go to the pub? If you go to the pub with your mate every day of the week, then that's probably a time when you say no. However, if this is a mate that lives in Scotland and they've come down for the first time in 4 months, then absolutely say yes, because that way you're helping your social life and it's not impeding on your ability to write. So I'm not saying that there aren't genuinely times where writing is difficult. There are absolutely going to be times when writing is difficult. A sick family member, work is high pressure, and around holidays no one really wants to be stuck in a room writing when you could be spending time with the people that you care about. However, I'm not talking about those times. I'm talking about the people who repetitively every day come home and nothing is stopping them from writing, but rather than opening up their laptop or their notebook, they sit down and watch Netflix, or they do something else that's a time killer, or they're procrastinating. And that is something that will really vex other people in the community as well as themselves eventually in the long run. A book will only get finished if you sit down and actually write it. Another thing I want you guys to be aware of is that first drafts are often awful. They are rubbish, and when you go back and you read them, you think, oh my gosh, I'm the worst writer in the world. That's not true, but that is how you will feel. In fact, if you're reading your first draft again and it's anyway close to half decent, we should throw a party because a miracle just occurred. First drafts, particularly for people who are writing first drafts for the first time, are going to be sloppy and disjointed. There are going to be continuation errors, there are going to be wrong words thrown in, it's going to be sloppy, it's going to feel jolty in places, but that's absolutely the point of a first draft. You're trying to get the skeletons onto the bone. You can refine things later, you can make things beautiful later. That is the great bit about editing, and learning how to edit really is what's going to make a difference between an amateur and a professional. There'll be anything other than perfect, and in fact for your mental health and well-being, I suggest you take the word perfection, you take it and you throw it out the window. It is better for you in the long run, I promise. Once you work on your book, once you give it the love and attention that it deserves, it will get there, but the first draft is not going to be that point. Okay, so at this point I have covered profession, people, procrastination, and perfectionism. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is time, and yes, I know that's not another P word, but I couldn't think of a P word that meant time. So, writing your first draft, writing your book is going to take time. Sitting at a keyboard and having to type out 80,000 words is going to take time. Even with people who have already got plots, you're going to get writer's block, you're going to get stuck at different points throughout your novel. Be kind to yourself and give yourself ample time. This is a marathon, not a sprint, and you've got to make sure that you can pace yourself accordingly. If you've got to write 80,000 words, 100,000 words, you have to write every single one of them. And that is why it's so important not to punish yourself when you get stuck, because naturally there are going to be points that are more difficult for you. It's even more difficult when you don't have a plot, which is one of the reasons why I highly recommend plotting, because I think it's such a great tool to prevent writer's block. But the most important thing to remember is to have fun while you're doing it. If you have fun while writing the novel, then that will come through to your readers and they'll enjoy reading your novel. So make sure that you relax, have fun, and try not to put pressure on you. Oh, pressure! That's what I should have done this. Sorry, I should have put pressure as my P word here. Try not to put pressure on yourself. So yeah. Those are my 5 really big tips for realistic writing expectations when you're writing your novel. I really hope you enjoyed this video this week. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. As always, you guys, if you have any questions about anything, just hit me up on any of my social media platforms or leave it in the comment section and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I hope you guys have positive and productive weeks. I'm HD King and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!